One thing I promised myself is that once this channel did start getting some traction, I would stay very far away from the GOAT debate, because truly that really adds nothing to the game. The GOAT debate is just there to tear down players' legacies and put a microscope on the smallest failures and never actually give them any credit for some of the biggest accomplishments that they have throughout their entire career. And when you enter the GOAT debate, you're one of the top 5 basketball players of all time, and to ignore anything good you did in your career is very wild. And today I'm probably gonna stick to that notion a little bit. I won't be telling you how to feel about LeBron or telling you why he is the GOAT, why you should feel like he's the GOAT. I'm here to give you a specific timeline and show just how he moved up the all-time rankings with certain accomplishments, and you can decide where you want to put him, and I'm about to tell you where I have him on my list. Before I get started, hi, I'm Fabi. I make basketball content here on YouTube, and I'd love to have you guys on the channel. We've been picking up a lot of traction lately, and people seem to really be enjoying the content. So if you want to join the gang, or if you've been here before, please hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you here. So today we're going to talk about LeBron James and when he entered the GOAT debate, or at least became the GOAT if you feel that way. Let's get into it. The year is 2003. The phenom that's been rocking the basketball world for the past 3 years has finally entered the NBA draft and the consensus #1 pick. And what do you know, he goes to his hometown team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the moment he steps on the court, he shows you just how good he is and why the hype around him may not just be hype.
On the run, this is his best part of his game. And there's his first assist, and it's a beauty.
Boozer for a dunk.
Here he comes the other way. There's your first James Jam of his career.
And after winning a controversial Rookie of the Year award that some people may say deserves to go to Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James still showed the impact he had on winning and on the game, and made a lot of people question, can he truly live up to these Jordan narratives? Because while the man is already insane, that's a lot to ask of a 20-year-old, but still these numbers in the start of his career are so insanely great that he very much could do it. And in his second season, the insane leap he took, averaging 27 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 7.2 assists, 2.2 steals on 7% shooting and 35% from 3, he started having the superstar narrative thrown around a little by little halfway throughout the year, and in his third year is when it fully stuck, being top 5 in MVP voting, averaging 31 points per game. Overall, LeBron James just took that leap that made you realize, like, nah, this kid is only 21 years old and he's doing this already. He could definitely live up to the GOAT narratives that a lot of people already have around him. But this wasn't a clear time he was on anybody's all-time rankings. LeBron James still had a lot to prove. In this year's playoffs, he lost a crucial Game 6 against the Detroit Pistons that would have sent him to the conference finals, where we would have gotten a D-Wade, LeBron James battle in the conference finals to go to the NBA finals, where LeBron probably could have been able to win his first championship, because I think that they really didn't have the personnel to beat LeBron James on that Dallas Mavericks team, but just neither here nor there. And then 2007 against the Detroit Pistons happened. The Game 5 heard all around the world. LeBron James put on one of the most Jordan-esque performances that people's ever seen to push the Cleveland Cavaliers to a 3-2 lead in the series against the Detroit Pistons. 48 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals. 29 of his team's last 30, 25 straight points to end the game. The man was on a mission, hitting contested shot after contested shot. They couldn't do anything to stop him. It was truly one of the most elite performances we've ever seen from any player in the NBA. And this was the moment that I think a lot of people have on his radar. Like, hold on. Nah, this kid is different. Because putting up big numbers aside, LeBron James throughout this time was impressing everyone. His first playoff series against the Wizards, he completely cleared everybody in that series and proved that he deserves to be here. And just any other series he played in, he continuously proved then and then why he is probably, if not already, the best player in the NBA, a top 5 player in the league in just his 3rd season in the NBA. And while a lot of people commended him for making the finals with such a dreary roster around him, he simply didn't play too well against the San Antonio Spurs. LeBron James at this point wasn't the greatest shooter. Even now he's pretty streaky, but at the time the shot really wasn't there almost at all. And the San Antonio Spurs abused that completely. LeBron just couldn't get any headway towards the rim. He didn't shoot over 50% in any game in the NBA Finals, and that took a lot of weight and a lot of the wind out of the sails of people pushing the narrative that he made the finals at the age of 22. But still, as a 22-year-old making the NBA Finals, and you're going up against a dynasty in the San Antonio Spurs that has the defensive personnel and the what I consider the greatest defender of all time, and Tim Duncan at the rim, when you're one of the best drivers in the NBA, you could understand why the man just couldn't get anything going, especially when he never had a second option on the roster. But during that 2007 offseason, something happened in the NBA. While many people realized that LeBron James at this time needed only a second all-star on his team, just somebody else he can rely on to be a consistent scoring option and a ball handler on this team, and he could probably get it done. But something down in Boston put a wrench in all those plans. Boston put together what was at the time pretty unheard of, at least through trades and through free agency, in signing both Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen, or trading for these players and creating the big three down in Boston, officially making them the foregone favorites in the Eastern Conference. You have one of the best defensive and offensive bigs in the game in Kevin Garnett. You had one of the better offensive players in the NBA in Paul Pierce. And you had what at the time was the greatest shooter the NBA has ever seen in Ray Allen. And at the time, Rondo was still one of the best point guards in the league defensively and as a floor general offensively. And LeBron, for the next couple years, continuously just got slapped by Boston over and over again. 2008 got slapped. 2009 though is the one where people can't excuse. Going against the White and the Orlando Magic, which is a team that I think is very underrated throughout NBA history. I may need to make a video on that. But LeBron James put together a masterclass performance in that series, and this team just couldn't get it done. And then the ringing started going around. Next season, it was LeBron James' last contract year in Cleveland. People wanted to see this LeBron-Kobe matchup in the NBA Finals that they simply didn't get. And right now, with LeBron James' contract ending, would he want to stay in Cleveland? A team that has basically shown they can't put a consistent roster around him. They can't give him a second star. It was just him and him alone. Can they do it and put a roster around this man? And the next year, LeBron James seemed to have had enough, as many people thought he quit on the Boston Celtics. While he was revered as probably the best player in the NBA already in 2010, only in those last couple games against the Boston Celtics where he actually showed up. But throughout that series, he looked like he gave up on the Cleveland Cavaliers team. He knew he couldn't win against them, and if he made it to the NBA Finals, that Laker team was probably going to mop this Cleveland Cavaliers team. And then the decision happened. The one move in LeBron James' career where a lot of people still hold on to as the stain on his career.
This fall, man, this is very tough. And this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Going to Miami, teaming up with D-Wade and Chris Bosh to create what is a super team, one of the best super teams of all time, and claiming that they're going to win 5, maybe 6 championships. And many people believe them. The talent culminated on that Miami Heat roster was honestly insane. Dwayne Wade at the time was one of the best guards in the NBA, and was viewed as probably a top 5 to top 10 player in the league. Chris Bosh at the time was the 4th best power forward in the league. And while you may say number 4 isn't too crazy, keep in mind the only players ahead of him was Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and Dirk Nowitzki. 3 players that are all top 15 to top 20 all time. So safe to say Chris Bosh was pretty good at the time. And after a rough start going 9-7 or 9-8 in their first couple games, the Miami Heat got it together and kind of cruised throughout the NBA playoffs. LeBron silenced his demons in Boston Celtics by destroying them in a couple games there. The Chicago Bulls, while they put up a fight in MVP, D Rose looked underwhelming in a couple of these games because LeBron just looked like he was ready to destroy anything. He wanted to get to that NBA Finals that bad. And after walking through the Eastern Conference, meeting up with the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals, the Miami Heat were clear favorites. The talent discrepancies, at least the top-heavy talent discrepancies, was completely there, but the Miami Heat really had no depth at all. But that really shouldn't be a problem. The talent difference at the top should have made this a foregone conclusion. In the first 2 games, it looked like that. Dwayne Wade was playing some of the best basketball of his career. Chris Bosh looked good. And LeBron was underwhelming, but after winning those 2 games, you realize that if LeBron just plays even just his regular standards, this series should be over. But it just got worse and worse. Horrible fourth quarter performances, dropping games that he should never have dropped. No argument he had with Dwayne Wade literally yelled at him, do something. Dwayne Wade was overall the best player in this NBA Finals. If they won, the narrative around LeBron would probably be a little bit different because he would have 1 less Finals MVP but 1 more championship. And being in the GOAT debate while having a championship where you're not the best player on your team could definitely affect you, a la how people feel about Kobe and Shaq. But didn't work out that way. The Miami Heat got completely destroyed, and this is where LeBron's career took the fattest nosedive. He was at rock bottom. Everybody else immediately just labeled him a loser, somebody that could put up amazing stats, somebody that in the regular season looked amazing. Probably gonna win another MVP or so, but he just isn't that guy. He doesn't have that mentality to be a winner. LeBron's reputation was in the mud People didn't even dare compare him to Kobe anymore, let alone even the Jordan comparisons. People just looked at him as the guy that can't get it done no matter what he has on his team. You can give him all the talent in the world, he just isn't that guy and doesn't have the mentality to win. And so this set up the greatest redemption arc in NBA history. 2012, the Miami Heat had a pretty clear-cut mission here. Win a championship and that's it. They put a lot better roster around this Miami Heat team than they did before, and this team overall fit well cohesively. Some players took some rest so they're ready for the NBA playoffs when time came around. They were a top seed in their conference, so they didn't have to worry about slipping in the standings and not having home court. So they walked their way throughout the NBA playoffs pretty easily, and they looked like they may be able to get back to the NBA Finals. And then LeBron's old demons, the Boston Celtics, reared their head again. And in a Game 5 in Miami, Paul Pierce had one of the better games of his career and almost silently killed LeBron's career completely. If he was supposed to lose this year against the Boston Celtics, there's no recovery. He simply could never recover what the expectations he had and the reputation he had before. And then Game 6 happened. The greatest game of his career in my opinion. 45 points, 17 rebounds, I think 17 of 20 shooting. Just one of the most insane performances I've ever seen with my own two eyes. I was a Miami Heat fan at the time. I became a Miami fan around 2008. I was watching D Wade, and the first game that I think really got me into the sport was the battle between Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. So I've been watching these two closely throughout their entire career. There's nothing compared to what I saw from LeBron in this game. I don't think he's ever even reached this point again. It's not like it's the most points he ever put up in the playoffs. It's not like it was some masterclass triple-double. It was an insane amount of point output, 45, but the mentality and just the way he looked while playing on the court, dismantling everything that the Boston Celtics put in front of him, hitting difficult shot. There's just nothing he's done in his career that probably matches the atmosphere that was in this game. The Boston Celtics lost this game by the second quarter. It didn't look like they even had any fight left. No matter how hard they tried, no matter how they defended him, everything went in the basket. And I think we all remember when Kevin Garnett made that joke that they broke LeBron.
You feel like you can break LeBron at this point?
We broke LeBron.
In Game 5.
So get your ass out of here with that, all right?
I am here to kind of agree with him. You broke the old LeBron, but you broke the LeBron and created a version of him that's even better. After this, there's no question of who LeBron James really was. Walking through that Game 7 in Miami Heat's building and making it to the NBA Finals and dismantling a young OKC team, LeBron James captured his first ever NBA championship and started the redemption arc that made him the player he was. In the next year, the Miami Heat had one of the greatest seasons of NBA history, had the second greatest winning streak of all time, won 66 games, and while LeBron James is kind of underwhelming in the NBA Finals, those last two games, especially that masterclass Game 7, where he put up 37 points and hit that dagger shot to completely kill this game, LeBron James was back on track. Those Jordan comparisons were starting to flow back in, but at this time, I don't think anybody had him above anywhere in the top 20. Yes, he won 2 championships, 4 MVPs, both finals MVPs, and he recovered from what was one of the worst meltdowns ever. It just isn't enough to really push him anywhere close. And after returning to Cleveland and having a masterclass performance his first year with Kyrie and Kevin Love down in the NBA Finals against Golden State, many people realized that LeBron would probably be a 3-time champion if just one of them was healthy. And you just started seeing the impact the man truly had. At the time, he was still the greatest player in the NBA. There's really just nothing people had against him anymore. 2016, what many people consider the greatest year in NBA history or the greatest season in NBA history, and I have a hard time disagreeing with them. From the Golden State Warriors breaking the Bulls record of 73-9, an MVP conversation for Steph Curry that got killed in December, considering just how great he was, putting on the greatest shooting display I think I've ever seen until I think around 2020. I think that was a little better, but we're not here to argue that either. And the Cleveland Cavaliers being one of the best teams in the NBA. We have the OKC Thunder completely healthy this season and looking to tear apart the league. Also, Kobe Bryant's final year in his NBA career. This year just had a lot of things that made it great. But the NBA Finals is what truly put the cherry on top of an amazing cake of a season. I know a lot of people remember those last 3 games as the culmination for what the 2016 NBA Finals was, but I'd like to focus on the first 4 a little bit here. And just to understand, the Cleveland Cavaliers was getting absolutely mopped. 15-point loss, 33-point loss, 30-point win because they needed to win that Game 3, and a 11-point loss in Game 4. LeBron James at the time was not having the greatest performances in his career. 23 points in Game 1, 19 in Game 2, 32. He had a great 32-point performance in Game 3 and a 25 performance in Game 4, but completely shut down in that fourth quarter. Yeah. Let's just say this is becoming one of the worst finals he's played if those last 3 games didn't happen. But Draymond, again, did the stupid thing and got himself kicked out. I don't care. You're stupid, shouldn't be kicking people in the nuts and punching people in the nuts. That's how you get suspended. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving completely took advantage of that in those last 2 games, or the last 3 games. Golden State didn't have the heart of their team in Game 5, so LeBron James and Kyrie Irving gladly took it. 2 41-point performances by both of them. LeBron James nearly had a triple-double with 16 rebounds and 7 assists, with 3 steals and 3 blocks, having some of the greatest defensive performances I've seen from him in that game. And then in Game 6, the Cleveland Cavaliers LeBron just dismantled this entire Warriors team, winning by 14 points. They were up by 20 plus in this game. LeBron was a plus 26 in this game. 41 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, 3 blocks. Again, another elite offensive performance and one of the better defensive performances I've ever seen from him. And in that Game 7, even though he didn't shoot that well from the field, 27-point triple-double, 8 of 10 from the free throw line, what a lot of people hold against him is free throw shooting, and the greatest block, or the greatest defensive play we've ever seen in the league with the block, securing his 3rd championship. And while LeBron says this is what he feels like made him the GOAT, I think this is the one that put him in that top 5 conversation. It's the one that definitely made him and Kobe a real conversation. Because for context here, at the time, Kobe was in my top 5. But seeing this and seeing how well LeBron James not only played in those last 3 games, looking at his career so far and realizing that as series goes on, he just gets better and better as he learns the team's offense, and he dismantled this Warriors team by knowing their offense and picking them apart and having some of the best defensive performances we've seen. The conversations between him and Kobe were very real. Kobe may have had 5 championships, and those last 2 with Pau Gasol were some elite level of basketball. Kobe just never had a playoff run like 2016, or never had a 3-game stretch that LeBron had in the NBA Finals. Kobe's never had that on that type of stage before. So this is the one that truly made that 4 to 6 range for me a true toss-up between Kobe, LeBron, and Bill Russell. It just really didn't know who to put who over, and I wasn't getting mad at anybody who had LeBron 6th versus anybody who had him 4th. But I just don't think he did enough to be ahead of somebody like Magic or Kareem at the time. Be warned, I'm about to say this pretty fast because this is a part of the video that really and nobody really needs any context. LeBron James and Kyrie Irving completely mopped the Eastern Conference in 2017, but with Kevin Durant and Golden State Warriors, there really wasn't any question of who was winning the championship that year. The Cleveland Cavaliers lost 1 game going to the NBA Finals and still lost in 5 to that Warriors team. And while Kyrie Irving may make this excuse that they just weren't on the same page and this team was already falling apart, so that's why they lost, I'm here to tell you simply that I don't care. They were going to lose that series no matter what. That was too much of a combination of talent, and nobody was able to get over that, not even LeBron and Kyrie. And Cleveland Cavaliers need to look for ways to make this team better. And Kyrie Irving put a huge wrench in that plan, because in that offseason, he did request a trade. It seems like he was tired of not getting the full credit for what he was able to do in the NBA Finals. Since LeBron got a lot of that credit, felt like he really wanted to separate himself and really make a name for himself by himself without LeBron next to it. So he requested a trade, got traded to the Boston Celtics, and the Cleveland Cavaliers unknowingly got a very, very injury to beyond repair Isaiah Thomas, who they thought would be able to at least give him some of the production that he was able to do the next year. And the Cleveland Cavaliers put together a pretty inconsistent older roster. Jay Crowder, Dwayne Wade, Isaiah Thomas leading the helm of this team just wasn't enough. And midway through the year, they blew up the roster, sending everybody packing, made the team a lot younger. And while they played a lot better in the second half of the season, going to the NBA playoffs, there was no consistent second option, even with Kevin Love on this roster. And LeBron James had one of the greatest playoff runs we've ever seen. 8 40-point games, 13 30-point games, 4 triple-doubles, and a lot of games where he was like 1 or 2 assists or 1 or 2 rebounds away from a triple-double, multiple game winners, multiple game 7 wins. Overall, this playoff run was stuff of a legend for LeBron. And the fact that at the end of it, he had to look at what was Goliath in the NBA Finals and had a masterclass game 1 against that team that, we all realized got destroyed by J.R. Smith. But, things are in the past. But that playoff run was stuff of legend. It's the kind of thing that really stamps somebody in NBA history and makes you realize just how good the man is. LeBron, this was the greatest offensive playoff run that I probably has ever seen in my life. And it's looking at the numbers, it probably is the greatest one in NBA history. Not just the scoring, but the passing, controlling the tempo of the game, maximizing the effectiveness of players that should never be in the position to play high amounts of minutes in some of these high-risk games. This playoff run was what put LeBron James in the top 3 for me. This is really what solidified him as a top 3 player of all time, because I don't think some Magic, Bill Russell, or Kobe had a series that really, or a playoff run that was this amazing. Even with losing in the NBA Finals the way he did, it was one, inevitable, and two, still just destroying teams left and right and winning series that he had no business winning was truly what made this one of the greatest playoff runs we've ever seen, and what solidified LeBron James as a top 3 player of all time. And after going to the Lakers and being injured this first year, then coming back with Kawhi and PG in LA, you know, the whole narrative of they own LA now and yada yada yada, giving you some amazing offensive performance, but the best defensive season I think we've seen from LeBron since 2013, which is insane because this is 7 years later. LeBron James in 2020 solidified himself as the second best player of all time, winning that championship in the bubble, dismantling teams left and right, showing that he's still that guy and the best player in the NBA at the age of 35. That was the season that made LeBron James the second greatest player of all time. And right now, it's a legacy that continues to build, and we just don't know how high he may get. While a lot of people say that they don't feel like he can pass Jordan, I'm not putting that past him, because at some point, while LeBron James may not have had the peak Jordan had, LeBron James was about 95 to 99% just as good, but has been doing it for about twice as long. And at some point, having the longevity and being able to make teams championship contenders for a solid 15 years within your NBA career, I think that would make that guy the best player of all time. But right now I have LeBron as top 2, and what he's able to do with the Lakers in the next coming years can definitely determine whether or not I consider him the greatest player of all time. But that is the timeline, where LeBron James ends up on that timeline and what made him the second greatest player of all time, or many people see him as the GOAT. Thank you for watching. This is FLB. That's my time, and I'm out.